Yes, I am fading the music out on purpose. This is Dan Prowse, General Manager and Chief Engineer and Program Director, Pro Temp of CLC Radio and CLCradio.org here at the College of Lake County. And we're here with Roy Juarez Jr. You see, it all comes back to me. And I was only told 5 minutes ago. And he has been doing something and may still be doing it, but we'll ask him about that. And his main thing is homeless by choice. He will speak to that. I had a couple of introduction questions for you, sir. And how are you doing today, by the way?
I'm doing well. I'm just getting my voice back. I lost it last week, and it's kind of hard when you to do a tour when you lose your voice.
Yeah, it's kind of like doing talk radio. You know, for the first couple of weeks, you try it for, you say, yeah, I can do 3 hours. Yeah, me sitting around with my friends, we're always talking for 3 hours. Yeah, but then you realize you're the only one talking for the most part, and then it gets pretty tough. You get the what I call the leather voice. So I had just to give you a background for myself. I got here to the school about a half hour ago. I work at the school part time, and I'm also a part time student after the fact. In other words, I have a degree in music, but then I still continue that through what's called adult continuing education here, and it's relatively inexpensive compared to a credit hour, which is about $100 right now here at CLC, and that varies, of course, across the country. And so that you know that I came here as you were exiting the theater from speaking here at the James Lumber Center at the College of Lake County, Grayslake.Illinois.com.
I like that little plug there. Great job.
I only do that when I'm trying to think of the next thing I'm going to say. But so a couple of things that I noticed right off the bat, just from knowing a little bit about your situation from what I've been able to hear and read, in that you have the rolling book bag, which I call the rolling book bag,
right,
with you. So but that's typical for most speakers when they're on tour.
Right.
So I was just going to ask you the hard question first: are you still by choice homeless?
Yes, it's a 2-year journey that I'm on to circle the entire country with the goal to reach out to 100,000 young people, to not give up on life, and no matter what they've seen, what they've been through, and understand the value of a higher education.
And what is the choice that you made then? So it's really your choice isn't just to be homeless.
No,
really.
No, definitely not. I had first become homeless at the age of 14 with a 9-year-old sister and 2-year-old brother due to domestic violence. I've gone on since then and became a college graduate, and it was after graduating college that I wanted to go back and give back to young people that may have similar stories to mine, are struggling. And it was then that I decided that I was going to cross the country for 6 months, live out of my car, and speak for free at any high school, middle school, shelter, organization, anyone that's willing to bring me in. And about 3 months into that tour, I had seen so many young people that were hurting, and I knew that there was more that I had to do than just cross the country. So I've been on the road for 15 months now. I have 9 months to go, and I'm circling this entire country with the goal to reach out to 100,000.
And, some people... Well, I'm trying to think of the best way to ask this, because I thought of education. Is this something that you would write about or perhaps document either in film or in audio form, or even utilize it in some form of study, academic study, like for a PhD or a master's, right, or something along those lines? Or is this not, is that really kind of like a side benefit down the road?
Obviously, yeah, I think that we can benefit from everything we do, and definitely that wasn't the motive. I'm not actually in a master program or a PhD program. I have my undergrad, mm-hmm, and I think that the knowledge that I've gained from the tour and seeing communities and young people all across the country, I definitely can put it to use somehow to create a much bigger difference.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm thinking in terms of a style like a.
Yeah.
Maybe
And eventually, I plan on going back and getting my master's. So
Oh,
it
okay.
would be great to be able to go back and see what I've seen and reach out to people throughout the country that I've been
Yeah.
able to network with and meet, and principals, superintendents, community leaders, government
What-
officials.
What was your undergraduate?
It was
work?
actually in business. I graduated from Hardin Simmons University in Abilene, Texas in 2009.
Okay. And what started you on this journey?
Quite
What
honestly,
occurred?
it was by a dream, and I know that may sound crazy.
So literally, you were
I-
sleeping and
literally a
dreaming,
dream.
or
I was falling asleep one night on my couch, and I was living in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I was falling asleep one night, and I had this crazy dream. And in the dream, I saw myself walking into a large arena just filled with young people, and they were clapping and they were cheering. But it wasn't for me. It was because it felt like we were at an international conference to be equipped and go out and fight injustices throughout the world.
Mhm.
And when I woke up, my roommate was walking in because it was about 5 a.m. And I'm like, Nick, I know what I have to do. And he's like, what are you talking about, Roy? I said, I have to do a tour. And I'm not sure how a tour came out of that dream, but I woke up knowing that I had to do a tour. And so I wind up launching the tour 2 months later.
And how did that that kind of thing, like the homeless part and the tour part?
Mm-hmm.
How did they
How do they connect?
coincide? Yeah.
Well, the reason is because, excuse me, on this tour, I'm sharing my personal story growing up as a homeless kid.
Mhm.
And so from a marketing perspective, I went ahead and just came up with homeless by choice because I was choosing to live homeless once again. I packed up everything that I owned in Vegas and I put it in storage, and I was living out of my car, and I started driving across the country. And so I was saying I was homeless by choice because this time I had a much greater mission. Last time I didn't have a choice. This time I have a choice, but I want to use it to go out and inspire young people.
How from not to dig.
Oh no!
To your
Please
own-
dig all you like.
Well, from your own situation, how long did it take for you to get back on your feet, or was it for you an instantaneous thing?
Oh
Just
no,
do
definitely
it?
not. Definitely not. I mean, not only the physical things around me to get back on my feet, but there's emotionally, there's mental, and a lot of the things I learned on the street, I didn't even realize I learned. And for
Sure.
example, I learned at a very young age how to hate and how to be angry and how to hold a grudge. Because
So that's easy to do.
exactly,
You
exactly.
know.
And so yeah, and it's easy to act
Yeah.
out on.
Yeah.
If I'm angry, I'll fight you because that's how you release it.
Yeah.
And so these were a bunch of lessons that I have learned, but these lessons weren't getting me any further in life. If anything, they were holding me back, and I wasn't even living the life that I wanted to live. I was
Because
living
you maybe didn't have a balance yet.
exactly,
Yeah.
and I was living the life that was given to me by my environment,
Right.
and that's what I was living. And so I think that's why education, and I'm an advocate for education, is because I think that education truly sets us free and it allows us to be who we want to be. We just got to own and create the life that we want.
So for yourself, at the age, I think you said 14.
14.
Were you then about ready to be, or were you then in a high school
No, I dropped out of high
track?
school.
So and that was really
Yeah.
at that time you kind of had to.
Right. And it was
Or you
because, I
felt
never
that.
knew about the laws like the McKinney-Vento Act
Sure.
were saying that it doesn't matter if you're homeless, it doesn't matter where you live.
Mhm.
By law, that the school must get you transportation to that. So even if I wind up living with a host family or
Mhm.
adopted family is what I would call them,
Sure.
20 miles away, because of that law now that's in place,
Right.
the school would have to get me from that 20 miles away to bring me back to school. I can stay in school because it gives me some type of structure
Mhm.
to be educated. But at that time, I didn't know anything about that, so I just quit school, started bouncing from home to home to home, and I was homeless for about 2.5 years until a family took me in, and their only catch was that I would go back to high school.
Sure.
So I entered
That's-
high school as a third-year freshman,
Okay.
went on to become a sophomore and then a senior, and graduated from high school. And it wasn't until I
Now,
was
how did you skip the junior year? Academically?
academically,
Very-
academically,
so
and
that's
so
awesome.
yeah, so it was
I mean,
awesome. I
from where
graduated.
you came.
I graduated 3 months before my 20th birthday, and so then after that, I went into community college, but I was doing really bad because I had moved around so many times, living with so many different people,
Mhm.
that I had so many different personalities, and the reason I say that is because I had to make that house that I was living with happy, because if I could make them happy, that meant I had a place to sleep one more night, more food to
Mhm.
eat.
Mhm.
And then when I changed homes, I would have to become a new person in that new home to make them happy. Because
I'm curious about that approach, because maybe you've changed how you approach that.
Even now, as in being homeless by choice.
Yeah.
It's very difficult because, you know, I want to be respectful. I go into a home and I mean, I have certain values that I won't compromise.
Well, that's okay.
Right.
That's kind of what I was
Right.
getting at. In other words, you've learned to make yourself happy.
Well, it's funny.
And people see that, and then you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you can, I think if we can try to learn ways to make ourselves happy, people see that in us, and then they're just happy too.
Right.
They're happy
Right.
to see. Well,
And I think we need to be who we want to be. And,
Yeah.
But for me at that time, being young, I had no clue who I was, and especially when I went off to college, and I had a bag full of different personalities. Well, I had to decide then, well, who do I really want to be? So I literally sat down at my table in my apartment and I wrote down who I wanted to be. You know, I want to be a good son, I want to be a good brother, I want to be a good friend, I want to be educated, I want to be involved, I want to give back. And every day I would read them to myself, because for the past 20 odd years, my environment and people around me they contributed to who I was at that moment. And they weren't all great deposits that were made into me. I mean, some of them were the violence, some of them were the letting me down. So I was operating in this mode, but I sat there and really tried to become who I wanted to be. I wanted to be an honest person, and you know, I wanted to be a good person. But what did that mean for me? That meant that for me, I said honesty was, I mean, being a good person was being good to someone who wasn't good to me, and me still being able to be good to them. You know, I thought that was a good person. And so when things happened in my life, I went back to my value list, basically is what I call it, and say, well, Roy, you know, one of your values is you got to be good to them even though they were bad to you. Okay, well, I'm going to still respect that person and treat them good and treat them the way I want to be treated, because my whole message at the very end of the presentation is to become the change that we want to see.
Mm-hmm. At the time when you were writing down what you wanted to do, did you realize that that's actually a technique called journaling that's often done?
Definitely not. I definitely
you know that,
didn't
no,
realize
really.
it.
Just so you know, it's like
Yeah.
that some psychologists use.
Right. And I learned that now, which is pretty crazy.
That's kind of funny.
But at the time, it was really survival mode. It was really trying to.
Sure.
You know, I found myself depressed a lot. You know, I was getting depressed, and I knew that if I stayed depressed, I would not get anywhere in life. I would not create a positive difference that I wanted to. I would not be the example for my siblings that I wanted to be.
It's almost like you thought maybe you were thinking to yourself, this is obviously somewhat anecdotal, but you could have been feeling, well, I know how to hate, I know how to be depressed.
Right.
Now I'm going to try to learn some other things, and there's got to be something else.
And it wasn't always easy. I mean, even to this day, I see things that affect my life that I'm like, you know what, I can definitely connect that to my past, and I can see why I'm this way. So.
Yeah, there was. I interviewed a guy from Australia who goes around the world, and he uses Twitter.
Right.
I'm still trying to remember this guy's name, and it was a couple of years ago. It was over the phone, and it didn't get recorded, and I kicked myself. That's why I went in there in the back room today to make sure those archivers are running. But just because of the way, I'm trying to remember some of the things that he said in other interviews to other people too. Basically, his mode is he uses Twitter to let people know where he is,
right?
And then other people now they've kind of gotten into the thing where they tweet back to him and they say, hey, you know, you can come stay with us. You know, we're only 300 miles away.
Right.
So then he goes, well, that'd be great. And then now people know what he means.
Exactly.
Meaning, okay, and then someone 50 miles away, hey, I can drive down and give you a ride out there. I have a cousin that lives there. So then he's not only using Twitter, he's using to get the ride to go to the next step, the next place.
Exactly.
And his goal is to try to circumnavigate the globe in this manner, but it's been very zigzaggy and sometimes.
And that's exactly what this
two
tour
steps
has
forward,
been.
one step back for him too.
It's definitely been that. I'm circling the entire country. I started in Los Angeles, crossed over to Jacksonville, Florida, and then I decided I would. It was at that time I decided I would circle the country. So I went back to LA, drove north, and they made it all the way. I went all the way to Washington State, and they went all the way here to Chicago, and that's when you guys had the huge winter storm. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, I jumped in my car and I drove to Miami, Florida. Got to Miami, I resumed my tour there, and now I'm driving north all the way. My tour is currently in Virginia. I came here just to speak here. I drove all the way. I'm driving all the way north to Maine, and then making my way back across till I hit the Twin Cities. But that's exactly how it works for me with host families. I mean, Facebook has been huge for me, so I'll jump on Facebook and say, "Hey, everyone, I'm heading to Portland. Does anyone know anyone I can stay with?" And like, all my friends on Facebook will just go out and be like, "Hey, Roy, I met it's a true story. I met a girl at a hair show like 2 years ago, and she lives in Portland. And I just called her, and she says, "Yeah, you could stay there." So I'll go and I'll show up in Portland, and I'll knock on her door, and I'm like, "Hi, my name is Roy," and she's like, "Oh, come on in."
She already knows what you look like from
exactly.
Facebook, so it's
and I had no clue who she is.
Right.
And so I mean, it gets a little scary sometimes because sometimes there's some creepy people out there. I'm not gonna lie. That have taken me in.
They will, but you're not.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they've taken me in and I mean, made passes at me.
A few things they say at the dinner table, like,
touch my leg, and I'm just like, you know, I think you have the wrong idea about the tour. I'm homeless by choice, so I can inspire kids. So, it's been interesting, but it's definitely been a journey that I don't regret taking. It's not easy. I mean, I work 15-hour days every day.
Now, there's the tour. So you're doing this by using host families
right
in the area of where you're touring.
Yes.
So how do you? So your tour isn't really booked, or is it booked? But
so basically, like if you were to
tentatively.
visit my website, and here comes my plug: www.homelessbychoice.com. That was www.homelessbychoice.com.
I just want you to know that it still is www.homelessbychoice.com.
That is correct. You would see a calendar there. And so basically, that calendar is just saying where my car should be by. My car is a tour, basically, where my car is at during that time frame, because I kind of sketched out a timeline of circling the country.
So we here at the College of Lake County,
right.
did booked you by someone came across your Facebook or website.
Well, actually, a young man, Jose, that was
Sure.
with us today. He heard me speak at a regional conference, and he's been my friend on Facebook. Well, I passed through on the tour here in Chicago, and I was speaking at a homeless shelter, and Jose came out to see me with his mom and his girlfriend's sister, and I was given an opportunity by an organization called Urban Strategies and also the Administration for Children and Families, and they said, "Roy, you know, will you go out and kind of share the state of Latino affairs and also share your story with young people so they can know where we stand and how important it is to make a difference?" So I would love to. And so they said, "We want to sponsor you a flight. We will give you a flight and a hotel room."
Okay.
And so I called Jose and I said, "Jose, I have this great opportunity. Do you think you can help me? I would love to use this opportunity in Chicago." Well, since then I've gotten 4 other flights, and so I'm actually going to be in Phoenix as well. And so my tour is currently in Virginia, so I'm not supposed to be here, but I had a couple of days that I hadn't booked yet.
Okay.
So I decided to fly here, and Jose was brilliant and got me 5 different speaking engagements.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So.
There's something that just something flew in my head and flew out again. That was
when that happens.
related to.
But it has been an interesting tour. It really has been. And I wouldn't do it if it wasn't for the kids. I mean, it's like I said, it's not easy. That's something that keeps me motivated. When you hear stories of the violence in the home with young high schoolers, molestation, suicide, it's draining. It's extremely draining. And then
I would imagine it'd be like someone like working like as a psychologist or an EMT or something. It's a similar type.
And then having to go back to your vehicle afterwards, and then drive 5 hours somewhere to meet a brand new host family who you've never met before, and then you walk in and you have to share your personal story again, which I understand because you're going into their home, but then they want to share their story, and before you know it, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and you got to speak at 8 o'clock in the morning again, and you haven't got any work done to try to get into the other markets of the other cities to reach the kids there. So it's very draining. I don't have any sponsors. This tour does not have any sponsors whatsoever. The way that I make money to support the tour is anywhere within a 5-hour radius of where the tour is located, again, Virginia, I will speak for free. Anywhere outside that 5-hour radius, I charge as a speaker, so I do a lot of flying out to speak, to fly back in to pay for this tour, because the estimated cost for this tour for the 2 years is $160,000.
Well, okay, so now I'm getting the logistics of how you can. That's pretty good.
Right, and so it runs me $5,000 to $8,000 a month to stay on tour.
Okay. Now what? I'm trying to think of what is for homeless people. There's degrees of homeless. You're lucky enough to have a car.
Right.
In a sense, I mean, you've been able to pay for it, obviously.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I definitely I pay for that. I pay for my school loans.
Sure. But there are people who are homeless who have
and that's why I say homeless by choice,
Yeah,
You know, I'm
sure.
not. Technically, if we want to, well, it depends on what you want. If you want to go by the definition by the McKinney-Vento Act, well then, I'm homeless, but I don't. I really don't have to be. You know, I have my degree. I can go back into the workforce, but I think it's much more than that. I think that
Well, on the nitty gritty of it, in other words, things like and these are things that most people wouldn't know about being homeless.
right,
Getting insurance, getting
Right.
being able to have a phone and pay that.
Right.
You know, because getting a phone is probably the first thing that most young people do
Right.
in order to establish credit.
right,
Uh,
or
so-
even knowing what homelessness is. I mean,
Yeah.
when we think of homelessness, we think about the person on the side of the street,
Mhm.
and there's different levels. I mean, you have the couch surfer, which was what I was as a teenager, and so I bounced
Right.
from couch to couch to couch. You have, the families who live in hotels because they can't save enough money to make a down payment to get into an
Right.
actual apartment, and so they're living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, and there's if they skip one of those paychecks, they'll be on the street and enter in a whole different level of homelessness.
Right.
And so again, there's many different levels. I've had people who were like, come at me and say, "Oh, well, you're homeless, but you have a car," and but more attacking me, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
you've missed the whole message. You've missed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a car, and yeah, I have a cell phone, and yeah, I'm on a journey to help kids, and to take the whole homeless thing out of your mind. It's trying to inspire kids to make better choices, to make tomorrow a better place, because I think that as Americans, for many of us, many people are very individualistic. I became homeless at the age of 14 with a 9-year-old sister and a 2-year-old brother, and I had 9 uncles and aunts. How does that happen? How do you become homeless at 14 with your 9-year-old sister and 2-year-old brother for 2.5 years,
Oh, with that many uncles and aunts.
and you have
I
9
would say.
uncles and aunts? How does that happen? And that's why I think that we need to be better people. We need to love more. We need to smile more. We need to be good to each other. It's not just about us. So,
That's wow.
yeah,
That's
it's
See,
hard.
That's good. And then that was. I'm glad you're able to speak this way and about some of these
Right.
somewhat basic things without giving away your speech.
Well, I'm just, and so like even today when I spoke, I spoke about if we can all just try to make some type of difference. And I'm not expecting everyone to say, "Hey, we're gonna live homeless, jump in a car, and go try to save the world." No. I'm an extremist. I understand that, but we can all do something.
Once you're an extremist to make a point, really,
Right,
You
exactly.
kind of have to do that.
Exactly.
It's kind of like how I do.
Okay.
I
like-
have my thing too. Like it's all levels, right? It's
Right.
one man's floor is another man's.
Well, no, there's
ceiling,
a
but-
great book that I read, and I think this helped me out a lot. There's a book called The Purple Cow, and I believe his name is Seth Godin. I think is how you pronounce his last name, and if it's not, I do apologize. But it's called The Purple Cow, and the essence of the book is this. Say, for example, we're driving from here to, let's say, Madison, and we're driving, and you see the common things. You pass up department stores and trees and fields, and you're passing up and you see a herd of cattle, and as you're passing that herd of cattle, you see this within them there's like this one cow that's all purple with dark purple spots, and you're like, what's that? So you get to your meeting in Madison and you say, before we start this meeting, I just have one question for you. What is up with that purple cow outside your city?
Yeah.
And the essence of the book is this: everything you do in your life and your career, you have to create a purple cow, that it's so out there that people are left talking about it.
Mhm.
I could have jumped in my car and circled this country and just been another motivational speaker trying to help kids, and that's all it would be.
Mhm.
But now it's homeless by choice because I'm trying to bring more attention to the estimated 1.3 million homeless teenagers that we had in America in 2007, and that number has grown,
Yeah.
and that's heartbreaking. 1.3 million kids out there. I mean, I was in a city, and the gentleman says, Roy, he was a homeless liaison in this city in Texas. He says, Roy, we have 3,000 homeless kids in our district. He says, but 90% of that number is our elementary kids. He goes, because we can't find the middle schools and the high school homeless kids because it's a hidden minority. 3,000, and 90% is elementary. And so, I mean, if I can just leave this place a little better than when I found it, then I'm good. Good.
Do you know if you're speaking in the Naperville area, Elgin, Naperville area at all? Because
not that
there's quite a large homeless
Not that I know
population
of.
there.
Not that I know of. And the hardest part on this tour is trying to get venues to
Yeah.
speak, for people to open up doors. Because you know what? I understand. I'm not a name, and we got to protect
Mhm.
our kids. I get that. And so basically it gets out by word of mouth.
Yeah, because I'm thinking perhaps Elgin Community College, which is out near there.
And so whoever's listening, I need your help.
Yeah.
So please help me make a difference. Visit www.homelessbychoice.com. Again, www.homelessbychoice.com.
I'm sure if I tag this properly in the description, it'll get up there.
It would help. I mean, anything would help. Anything would help. And one day I may have $1.50 left in my account. The next day I may have $3,000. I mean, it's definitely not a money-making tour. I don't make money.
Well, it's kind of like it really is the bohemian life of a musician.
Right.
That
Exactly.
they have to live with each other. You're lucky. You're not going as a team.
Right. I'm running solo.
Yeah. But imagine 5 of you in a van, having to drive from town to town, doing maybe a similar message, but with music.
Right.
Could be.
And it's going to take every single way to get there. Yeah. You know what? A musician may be able to reach a kid in a different way that I could never reach them, and vice versa.
True.
So it takes all of us to do something to make tomorrow a better place.
And it'd be an interesting thing if you ever come up with some musicians that are on the road that might want to. I can think of a band right now that actually they're thinking of going on tour.
Nice.
And I said, have you guys at least lived in the same apartment with each other?
Right.
Because do you know what you're in for? And they're saying, well, yeah, we do live in the same apartment now. I said, good, because they did that as a purposeful experiment to see if they could get along with each other,
and they should.
Or if they couldn't, how could they resolute,
exactly.
and come out of it better. And so I guess they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And that would be. And they're an interesting band. They're a bluegrass, original bluegrass band.
Nice.
And
so I have 9 months left. I have 9 months left on this tour. Like I said, it's been a journey. There's been 15 months on the road of stories of young people.
Well, so you said you had a cell phone. Are you doing anything? This is just my own personal little peccadillo, and this is my purple cow. Do you do anything technologically?
To stay connected
with it? Yeah. Because you've said Facebook, and you've got I think an iPhone there. If I'm
I do.
Almost blind, and then do you? So you kind of have to rely on that as to get out there to let people know where you are for booking and things like that. So that's pretty strong. But I'm not saying I'm not judging it. I'm saying that's probably something you need to do. In other words, I've talked to an explorer, John Waterman, and I asked him the same question, and he says, I just bring an emergency beacon when I go out to Alaska. He's not a Luddite. He just doesn't want to do it.
Right.
He doesn't choose to do that. So
for me, technology has really been a lifeline for many different things. First and foremost, the main one is to stay connected with my family. Yeah. I have to be honest. I love my phone. It's my GPS. It's my internet. It's my emails. It's everything.
Well, it literally is those things.
It's the business phone that I need for the possible schools that will allow me to come to call me and say, Roy, and set everything up. And so it's definitely a lifeline on the tour.
Well, that's and if I may say so, that's a good choice. I'm not plugging any particular thing, but the iPhone is actually a better choice than an Android phone at this point, just because of battery life.
Right.
Because you don't want to have to worry about. I mean, you do have the car; you can keep it charged all the time, but that's a literal, real consideration.
Exactly. And that all comes into consideration.
Reasons.
I mean, the little map thing that it has on here, that's how I figure out where I'm at, and I'll just type in school districts, and it'll show me all the school districts around, and I get their number, and it's a lot of work, but anything worth doing is worth working for.
That's definitely.
And if it's your passion, it's really not. You love what you're doing. I mean, it's my passion. I love working with these young kids.
Why am I sitting here? No, wait. Yeah, that's because.
I love looking into their eyes after a presentation, or seeing their tears fall from their face when they say, I can dream again. That's priceless. You can't pay for that. So.
Yeah, it makes me feel good just hearing that. That's pretty nice.
So it's been pretty amazing. So. And you can also find me on Facebook, facebook.com / I think it is, / or / try both. Homeless by Choice is what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that has become that. Did you start that as a fan page, basically, or whatever?
I did, because on Facebook, on your regular page, you can only have like 5,000 friends. And so I think I'm like at 4,700, I think, right now. So
then what you know what you do there, you convert it. I'll tell you off.
Okay.
Because if I tell you on the mic, someone's going to do it.
Okay. Perfect.
Some Nepal will do it.
Yeah. No, we have to do it off.
That's a right to Facebook. Please have them stop. I'm really that guy.
But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind sponsors. It would help out a bunch. But I mean, I tell kids, I said, even if I don't get any sponsors, you never accept excuses. You find solutions.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at this if you're not paying this forward in 10 years from now. Some of these kids that were able to realize some dreams.
That'd be amazing.
Like
I can't. I would love that. I would love that to one day walk into a place and have some kid say, "Sir, you don't remember me, but you know, I'm the president of this international corporation that I would never be here." You know, and that's payment enough. I mean, come on.
It's pretty
cool.
What? I can remember because I'm a drummer by choice. And that might be my slogan if I can possibly borrow part of your thing, because which is odd because drummers don't generally find themselves out of work too much. Except, of course, when MIDI, musical instrument digital interface, and electronic drums came along, for a while there it was a little scary.
Right.
But then we figured out, oh well, who knows how to program them? No one. Well, then we'll learn how to program them, and now we're back. You know, it came back in. This was probably in the 80s, late 80s, where this occurred. That epiphany for most drummers is like, well, no one's programmed them. I'll program them. You know?
Right.
And as a drummer, where was I going with this? It was
drummer by choice.
Kind of cool. Yeah, that was that was the fun side of it. But it doesn't matter because if I
we're talking about that the young kid who would come up to me 10 years from now. Hopefully.
That's what it was. It was the thank you. It was the as teaching drums,
right,
and teaching young kids, you know, junior high school,
right,
grade school, junior high school, which I did solidly for 2 years right out of college,
right,
and that until I learned that, you know, doing it on my own private lessons, I might make a little more money and make a little more sense.
That's right.
Not to put anything down on
of course
school teachers, you know, but it's a tough thing to try to do it that way. But the funny thing was, I remember teaching this one kid. You know, he was a little bit more advanced than the others, and so I showed him the magic of paradiddles. Okay. This is a sticking thing that you do with your right hand and your left hand with a stick in each hand, and it's a pattern, a sticking pattern, and it's an even rhythm. Okay. And it could be that fast or slow, or faster or slower. Right. And you move your hands in a right, left, right. Okay. Left, right, left. A combination of 8. And you keep repeating that and repeating that. And then you can move your hands around the drum set, you know, the different drums. You start out on the one drum and then move and then you can do it between your hands and your feet. I explained it to this kid once. He came back the next day and he had already learned the paradiddle pattern fairly evenly. Wow. We hadn't even talked about how important it is to use a metronome yet. So 10 years later, I'm here. He happens to be, I had recognized him. Right. But he happens to be the program director of the radio station when I started here as a DJ. Oh, wow. Well, I should say restarted here as a DJ because it was more recent than that. And then he's talking and he goes, dude, he goes, I know you. You're dude, if it wasn't for you teaching me paradiddles, I wouldn't be as good a drummer as I am. There you go. That's all. There you go. Yeah, I mean that made my week. I think also for me, I think it's very therapeutic to, as I tell my story of the violence and the abandonment and the, which I always end on the forgiveness because I'm huge on forgiveness, but it makes me feel as though what I went through had purpose, and it wasn't just a horrible event in my life. It's similar with teaching. Right. There aren't horrible things, but there can be. Sometimes you get things from, you know, because you can tell when certain kids have been through real crap at home. Right. And they get to their lessons and they're just they're glad to be there. You know, hopefully they'll learn something. Exactly. But sometimes it's just you sitting and talking with them about what's going on and know at school and stuff, without really delving deep, you know, because that's traumatic enough. But you know, you can kind of tell. But you know, if you just talk with them about anything, right, they kind of forget their problems for a while, and then you get to the drum lesson, and then they're good. I've been speaking. I was speaking while I was in college as well, so not as often as I do now. But I was traveling on the weekend here and there while I'm in college. And I remember senior year, I received a letter from San Angelo State University, and I was attending Hart and Simmons University, which they're about an hour from each other, different towns though.
And apparently, one young lady who had heard me speak had used my name in the entrance exam, I guess, or whatever. She had to write a paper, and so they sent me a thank you letter. And she was now attending San Angelo State University, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Wow,
it's pretty awesome. So
you wouldn't expect that.
yeah, and I was still
like
my
a
senior
publisher
year.
sending another writer
Yeah.
and thank you for like
It was
letting me know
awesome.
about Larry Miller and his book. That's weird.
Pretty awesome. But I mean, who knows where what's going to lead from here? I'm 9 months on the road. I take it every day, day by day. Just try to make as big as a difference as I can that day, because I was sharing with Jose. I said, Jose, when we got before the first crowd, which was high schoolers, I said I have one chance. I said I have one chance with them, because I'm going to speak to them just this one time, and if I can just capture some of them and inspire them enough to dream a little bigger, then I did my job. I did what I was supposed to do. I live with no regrets. I mean, I've made some really bad choices when I was younger. I made some really good choices, and I am who I am today because of it. But I just move on and try to be the best person I can be.
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of a superhero without the costume, in a sense. Really, to some people you must be.
I
You must be.
appreciate that. I might have to go out and buy some tights. I'm just kidding.
You don't have to wear them, but you might have to buy them. I understand.
No, that might not be good. That might not be good.
And here, you can throw out a pair of tights for. It's like
No.
best question. Here you go.
That's right.
Of course we're kidding. That's ridiculous. Well, I'm glad we ended up on a happy note of that.
Awesome.
That's good.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it. So again, guys, please check out the website, www.homelessbychoice.com. If you like it, tell everyone you know, because the more people know, probably the bigger difference I can help create. If you just never know who knows somebody. And so I thank you guys for listening and letting me share a little bit of the journey that I'm on.
Yes. No worries there.
So awesome.
Thank you, sir. That was Mr. Ray
Roy.
Suarez. Oh no,
That's good. No, that's
Roy.
good. It'll help us bring it back out. Roy Juarez Jr.
Juarez
Homeless
Jr.
by choice.
Ray Suarez. I know. We know who that is. I'm just saying.
Actually, Ray Juarez is my little brher. My little brother's name is
that's
Ray.
funny.
So you're just trying to give a shout out to my little brother. I
Right.
got it.
That's it.
Yeah, baby Ray Mijo, if you're out there, I love you. Now, but Roy Juarez Jr., homelessbychoice.com. Thank you very much.
Welcome. And in just a moment, Thomas Ruppel in his I forget the name of his show. He'll tell you.